Hello, my name is Jemma. I am a building surveyor in the commercial sector and I was diagnosed with autism a year and a half ago at the age of 26. In terms of how it felt to be diagnosed, it was most definitely a light bulb moment and explained a lot of things. But it was a bit of a double-edged sword because at the same time I felt like I was learning to get to know myself again. And I feel like that's probably an ongoing process, particularly with being diagnosed later in life. My diagnosis followed a visit to the GP, which was only intended to discuss my problems with sleeping at the time. I was lucky enough to have a very inquisitive GP who asked me a few questions, did the pre-screening questionnaire with me, which ultimately led to him referring me for the formal assessment, which led to my subsequent diagnosis. I think there are two key things that I wish people understood about autism. The first one being that you either have autism or you don't. The word spectrum simply refers to the severity of the different range of symptoms you might express as an autistic person, whether they're social, cognitive, physical. And the second one would be that although autism is a neurological condition, the very structure of our brains is different. So it is also almost a physical one as well. Not only is the structure of our brains different, but the way chemicals interact in our brains also happens differently to a neurotypical person. In terms of how autism affects my life, I would say there probably isn't really a part of it that it doesn't affect, but in terms of my career, again, there are positives and negatives. Positives, I have a very black and white sense of where I want my career to go, which gives me a strong sense of direction. But perhaps the challenges, as much as I wouldn't change either the career or the company I work with, the day-to-day nuances can be slightly more challenging, which is the nature of the kind of fast-paced commercial environment, particularly understanding, managing and living up to the expectations of others whose brains do work differently to yours. The number one thing that I find helpful is people just being open, direct and willing to ask questions. I think particularly in the workplace, it can be hard for neurodivergent people to feel comfortable in asking for reasonable adjustments or asking people to change their behaviour or communication styles, because at the end of the day, that person has probably been communicating that way since they were born, and it probably works with every other person they've ever met in their life, but it just might not work with me. So yeah, just creating a kind of open environment, open, inquisitive environment, that can be such a relief.